What famous person has done something incredibly heinous, but has often been overlooked? Notre Dame football coach Brian Kelly. Kelly insisted on having student videographers record practices. Back in October of 2010, the region was experiencing a very bad windstorm, 50+ miles per hour gusts, and Kelly hated to move practice inside. So once rain/lightning was over, he moved it back outside. Despite the high winds, the videographers had to climb into scissor lifts and ascend up to 40 feet high in this weather. As you can guess, the wind eventually blew over one of the lifts, sending it crashing down to a nearby street and killing the videographer, 20-year-old Declan Sullivan. Just before the accident, Sullivan tweeted out some heartbreaking messages expressing his fear over the situation. The team's practice continued for 25 minutes after the scissor lift fell over, despite the university being determined to be at fault for Sullivan's death. Kelly was never really held to account for his reckless decision to hold practice outside in horrendous weather and to continue to have the videographers up on unstable lifts. It should have ended his coaching tenure at the school that year, but collegiate sports money and power doesn't abide by such silly notions of responsibility. Most people remember Rick James for his catchy funky music, his erratic drug issues, or the hilarious Chappelle's Show Charlie Murphy True Hollywood Stories skit. What people don't bring up as commonly, in 1991, James and his girlfriend Tana Hijazi were accused of holding 24-year-old Frances Ali hostage for up to 6 days, tying her up, forcing her to perform sexual acts, and burning her legs and abdomen with the hot end of a crack cocaine pipe during a week-long cocaine binge. He faced life in prison for kidnapping, assault, and torture but only received a 5-year sentence and ultimately served 2 years total. I feel like that was a pretty heinous series of acts that have been often overlooked over the past 30 years. Famed musician John Phillips of the 60s folk rock group Mamas and Papas supposedly had a 10-year incestuous relationship with his actress daughter, Mackenzie Phillips. Coco Chanel was a big supporter of the Nazi Party. During the filming of the Twilight Zone movie, John Landis demanded a scene be shot in the middle of the night and beyond the amount of time that child actors are allowed to work, paid off their parents in cash from his own pocket. During the scene there were big pyro effects and a helicopter pilot hovering dangerously low. The pilot was trying to keep safe, but Landis kept telling him to get lower. Pyro blast damaged the tail rotor of the helicopter, which lost control and crashed, decapitating an actor and one of the children. The second child was crushed to death. Edit. My mistake. The passengers in the helicopter were not killed. Steven Spielberg broke off his friendship with Landis over this incident. That one's horrible. Apparently Spielberg was pushing him to get it done by that night. All the blame fell on Landis, but apparently Spielberg was able to dodge any responsibility in the end. Boy George. Man handcuffed an escort to a wall and beat them with a metal chain. Allison Mack, of Smallville fame, was a member of the NXIVM cult and was personally responsible for human trafficking, sexual assault, branding, and literally making other women sexual slaves of the guru. She's currently under house arrest awaiting sentencing. Klaus Kinski was a violent lunatic who also raped his own daughter. The number of professional athletes who have raped/abused people and animals/committed heinous crimes with impunity is too long to list. Karl Malone, ex-NBA player, impregnated a 13-year-old girl while he was 20 in college. Did not have a relationship with the kid. His son Demetrius later grew up to play in the NFL. Chris Benoit is more known for the circumstances of his death. Long story short, he's a wrestler, received too much chair shots to the head in his career, developed the brain of a 80-plus-year-old man at barely 40, had a breakdown, and killed his wife, his son and then himself. Once they learned this, WWE tried to basically bury him and act like he never existed despite the fact that he was an enormous main eventer back then. Everyone is aware of this, and it's often debated whether Benoit is a victim or not. But then you have Jimmy Snuka over there who killed his girlfriend in cold blood for seemingly no reasons, and this motherfucker is in the Hall of Fame and no one seems to care. Tiger was banging a 16-year Jenna Spawn and didn't care who knew about it. I'd like to take a moment to point out that old Pee Wee Herman did was masturbate in a porn theater. So, F your smug righteousness. Sarasota, Florida. According to Wikipedia, he was convicted of having child pornography several years later. However, the photos were nudes of teens that were part of a 17,000-piece vintage gay erotica collection and were purchased at auction as part of a lot that the actor may not have even gone through. As a collector of weirdos who occasionally purchases lots without fully inspecting every piece, I feel like that could actually be true. John Stamos admitted in Jane magazine to tricking a girl into having sex with his friend. He bragged that he started making out with this girl in a dark room, got up to brush his teeth, and then let his friend go in and have sex with her. No one mentions it. Some dirtbags just get a pass, I guess. Boy George. He captured and tortured someone, chained him in his room. I believe he only served a short sentence. Steven Seagal is a serial rapist and a fraud. I recommend the Backquote Behind the Bastards podcast episode about him. As a person in the film industry, it is well known that Steven Seagal also beats the living s out of stunt guys for real. In the movie Under Siege, he TKOs like 4 guys, throwing them into the wall, and kept saying, "Get me another one." I got from that, he is not a good person. Ian Watkins, lead singer of Lost Prophets, currently serving lots and lots of time at Her Majesty's pleasure for assorted child sex offenses, including trying to arrange something so despicable that I can't type the words. I used to love their music. Now I just feel sick when I think about it. Scrolled specifically for this one. He was going to rape a 1-year-old baby girl. Like the baby's mother was all for it. Also distributed child porn. Ted Kennedy, brother to John F. Kennedy, drove his car off a bridge and left a woman in it to die. Went home, got some sleep, and called police in the morning. No charges. Served in the US Senate until he died. The worst part is, allegedly there was evidence that there was a large air pocket in the submerged car, and she was alive underwater for a while before drowning. There is a non-zero chance she could have been rescued had he not covered it up. Alice Walton, heiress of the Walmart fortune, isn't a good driver. Walton has been involved in multiple automobile accidents, one of them fatal. She lost control of a rented Jeep during a 1983 Thanksgiving family reunion near Acapulco and plunged into a ravine, shattering her leg. She was airlifted out of Mexico and underwent more than 24 surgeries. She suffers lingering pain from her injuries. In April 1989, she struck and killed 50-year-old Alita Hardin, who had stepped onto a road in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Witnesses stated that Walton was speeding at the time, but no charges were filed. In 1998, she hit a gas meter while driving under the influence of alcohol. She paid a $925 fine. Alex Trebek shaved off his mustache with no regard for anyone's feelings about it. Edit. Typo. Jared Leto has a fringe group of young women follow him around and refer to him as a leader. His hair is long and flowing. Wears some long white smocks. Something is brewing with that. His antics on the set of Suicide Squad are also disgusting. Harassment, both sexual and non-sexual. And he claims it was all just to be method and get in character. And for what? That which is easily the lowest regarded Joker performance in history. Cesar Romero, Mark Hamill, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, Cameron Monaghan, Kevin Michael Richardson, Troy Baker, John DiMaggio, Zach Galifianakis, Alan Tudyk. All these people have at least been entertaining. Some have been considered masterful and iconic villain portrayals. And Leto was just a goddamn pizza cutter or legend, no point. I don't know how overlooked this is, but Kevin Spacey and the fact that 4 witnesses have died who were supposed to testify against him in his sexual assault case. That's just shady. No wonder he was so good in House of Cards. Steve Jobs denied his own daughter for years. Jimmy Savile. He got away with raping kids his whole life and everything only came out once he died. Got an OB as well whilst he was alive. All whilst abusing kids. The sad part is that the reputation was already there. People in the back offices of the BBC knew. The people who worked with him knew. Even some of the hospital and charity staff knew. But individually nobody felt like they could come forward because they wouldn't be believed and the charities might be shut down. Most Americans probably won't know the name Jimmy Savile, but what he got away with for decades is absolutely awful. Countless sexual assaults against people, mostly children, all the way up to the elderly. Worse than that, his behavior was covered up by element within the BBC as he was employed by them. He's dead now, but he got away with it his whole life. Likely won thousands of victims. Edit. Thanks for snack mystery person. Wesley Snipes beat Halle Berry so badly it made her deaf in one ear. Edit. Since this comment is now gaining traction, I'm going to use it to call attention to another comment I made. This Ask Reddit asks about something that has been overlooked. I'd urge people to look into the allegations against Michael Fassbender by ex-GF Lacey Andrews. A formal investigation did not take place, but Andrews has provided her medical records to news sites that show she sustained injuries including a broken nose, a busted kneecap, and a twisted ankle. She claims that these injuries were caused by Fassbender in 2 separate attacks.